is not a hard job. It is a very difficult job. You're going to hear things that makes normal people cringe. But it takes someone with empathy. You have to be able to turn it on and off. The times you go home, you're like, oh, I wish I could have done better. I should have done better. Those few moments make it all worth it.
Welcome to the Around Pickens podcast. I'm your host, Graham Parker. 56 years ago, back in February of 1968, Alabama Speaker of the House Rankin Fite picked up a telephone and made the first 911 call in the United States. Since that time, the phrase, call 911, has become as ingrained as stop, drop, and roll. It's just the natural thing to do when you find yourself in the midst of an emergency. But who are those people on the other end of the phone, those first responders of first responders? People who have to navigate any situation, any emotional state to dispatch the right people as fast as possible. The whole system is this fascinating glue that ties all of our emergency services together. And in this episode, we're going to learn how it works right here in our community by speaking to the woman in charge. Kristy Easterwood is a woman who wears many hats. Her involvement in our county's emergency services goes back over 3 decades, during which time she's risen to not only become our 911 director, but also serve as the fire chief at the Bethany-Salem Fire Department. There are few people as intimately acquainted with how the system works here in Pickens, and so I thought she would be the perfect person to give us some insight on 2023 statistics and what they mean for our county. So come on along. Let's hear what Kristy has to share about being a dispatcher.
So Kristy, in addition to being the 911 director, I think you're also the fire chief of the Bethany-Salem Fire Department, is that right?
I am.
I believe you got some history there. How far back do you go?
I started at the fire department in 1991.
Wow.
So I've been there most of my life. I've been the fire chief for the past 10 years. It's the first female fire chief in Pickens County.
Wow. So is that how your career in EMS kind of began?
It is. That's what sparked my interest. And then the 911 job was announced. And I was like, oh, that'd be fun. So, and once it gets in your blood, you can't get rid of it. It's there.
Really? So, walk me through that a little bit. 1991, you're a volunteer, and then you worked your way into being the director of 911.
I did. It's been a quick, long road. Yeah. I started at 911 in 1997. Seen a lot of changes. Definitely a lot of changes. We went from, we used to rarely have a call at night to now we're averaging 200 calls a day.
200, yeah. Wow.
That's everything. That's the officer-initiated stuff, but that we're still responsible for, kind of checking on them, and 911 calls, everything. That's 200 calls a day.
Well, I'd like to start off by just talking about the role that 911 generally plays. Can you give us a bird's-eye view of where it fits in with emergency services in the county at large?
Sure. We are the first responder. When somebody has a crisis, they call us, and then we start handling the crisis immediately, whether it be, say, getting them a fire truck or getting them the sheriff's office, getting them the police department, whoever they may need, getting them medical attention. Our dispatchers are emergency medical certified, so we can get them, start telling them instructions over the phone how to try to remedy the situation, start making things better.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to briefly talk about one part of 911 I think most people probably aren't aware of. I know I wasn't aware of it until I was working in planning and development. That's that you actually handle new addresses. So I was kind of wondering, why does that responsibility fall to you?
We want to know where you are. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's important that you get your mail. It's important that you get your packages. But when you need an ambulance or a fire truck, it's most important that we can find you. And in Pickens, most counties, 911 doesn't handle the addressing. It works out better for us here for me to do it. That way I get the information first. It's in our system first before it's released to, even your builder has it. I've got your address. So we can start the process of getting it in our systems, and so we know where you are.
Well, that makes perfect sense. How do you come up with a new address?
Addresses are assigned based on 1,000 is 1 mile. So every 5.28 feet is a potential address. Odd should be on the left, even's on the right. There's places out there that it's not like that, but that's how it's supposed to be. And for thoroughfares that pass through, it's the beginning of the street closest to the center of town. So,
well, good to know.
Yeah.
So, touching back on dispatchers, I believe they're called communications officers.
They are.
again, just sort of broadly speaking, what role do they play with emergency services?
When you call 911, they're the ones that's going to answer your call. They it's also here in Pickens, we don't have call takers. They're all one person. So they're also maybe the one dispatching your call or someone in the room dispatching police, fire, EMS to you. They're the ones taking care of the call from the beginning to the end.
Mm-hmm. So they're taking calls from the public, and they're also sort of putting different agencies and services going where they need to go.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a busy hat.
I believe it. I definitely do. So do all services in the county and all the municipalities come through you?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, everything comes through us. We dispatch for all the sheriff's office, police, fire, for all fire in the county, and EMS is combined with fire. We also dispatch for the animal shelter, the marshal's office. We talk to Georgia State Patrol. If one of the officers needs a record, we also work with the record services. We talk to DOT. There's a lot more to us than people really think we do.
Yeah, certainly sounds like it. Well, tell me about what it's like working there. What does the inside of the center look like, and what kind of technology are the dispatchers using?
Everything you've seen on Rescue 911 or the 911 shows on TV is wrong. That's not how we are.
Really?
It is a dark room. We keep it dark for the computer screens. We have 4 screens, and they use we call it computer-aided dispatch. It's a program that's got in the information, the address, and it can tell who to recommend, who to send, and they type in all the information from the caller, information from the officers. Everything is based off that program.
Mm-hmm.
We are staffed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so it's kind of laid back in there when they can, because the job is so stressful at times. So when they get a moment, they can take a breather, do what they need to.
Yeah. So what are the shifts like? Do they go for 5-7 days at a time?
They work 7 out of 14 days. So they work, the shift that's working today, for instance, worked Monday, Tuesday, and they work Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Next week, they only work Wednesday and Thursday. So it kind of gives them a break when staffing allows.
Right. Well, at the time that we're recording this, I know that you're hiring for some additional officers. What would you say is important for people to know before they apply for that position?
It is not a hard job. It is a very difficult job. You're going to hear things that makes normal people cringe. And I don't mean to insult my dispatchers when I say that, but it's to hear someone taking their last breath, to hear people fighting, and that being normal for you. That's not normal.
Yeah.
But it takes someone with empathy. You have to be able to turn it on and off. It's very rewarding in the end. Mm-hmm. When you see someone, and this actually happened. Years ago, I was on the radio and I done CPR over the phone, and a couple years later, I met this couple, and I was like, "Wait a minute, that name's familiar." So that's that kid, and that makes it all worth it.
Golly,
all the heartaches and all the times you go home and you're like, "Oh, I wish I could have done better. I should have done better." Those few moments make it all worth it.
I can't imagine. Well, it seems like probably the most important quality is the ability to stay cool under pressure. Do you think that's just something that has to come naturally, or can that be acquired through training?
It has to come natural. We can go through the methods. We can go through how to keep control of your caller, keep repetitive persistence. We can train you all day long, but you have to be able to do it yourself. You have to be able to realize this is the information and this is what I have to do with it. Mm-hmm. And not overthink it, and take your job serious at the same time.
Yeah.
There's a lot of multi-levels. Multi-personality has to be has to be involved there.
When somebody calls in with different emergencies, is there like a certain set of questions or a kind of script that dispatchers are following to get their information?
There is. We call it the 6 W's: the where, what, when, who, why, how, and weapons. where is the most important bit of information. If and people sometimes are hesitant to give the location, but if we can just get the location, we can send help.
Mm-hmm.
And we have technologies advancing greatly, that we have different programs we can use that will help us identify your location. But still, if you can just, at the minimum, we have to have a location.
Well, let's talk about some practical information. At some point in most people's lives, they'll probably have to call 911. What should people know or do that could best help a communications officer to do their job?
Remain calm the best you can and answer our questions. There's a reason for them. You may think it's crazy that we're asking these questions, but we have a reason. Know your location. Know your phone number. Know any pertinent medical history about who you're with. But let us ask you these questions. That's the biggest thing. I would like to just be patient with us.
Right.
We have other operators in the room getting help on the way, so just be patient and answer the questions and stay on the phone with us.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me ask you, are there any misconceptions you come across a lot you'd like to clear up?
People think the one that answers the phone is the one coming.
Huh.
And 30 years ago, that was the case. But not anymore. None of my dispatchers are coming on the call at the time. Anyway, I've got several that volunteer in different fire departments and stuff, but not at the moment. The ones when you call 911, the ones that answer the phone are there with you to see you through the call. Other people, they're either going to dispatch the call themselves, or there's other people in the room going to be dispatching help to you.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me ask you this. Does it work like you see in the movies? Can you actually trace a call somebody calls?
We can.
Wow.
We can. Technology is coming a long way as far as tracing the calls. When I dial 911, if I was to dial it from right here, they would know I was exactly right here around Pickens studio.
Man, that's amazing.
And if I'd get in my car and drive down the road, they can follow me down the road. So,
what would you say has been the biggest advancement since you've started with all this?
That would by far be the biggest advancement.
Yep.
Just being able to tell the location from callers. It's and that's just in the past couple of years. It's been remarkable at the technology, and I get emails every day of stuff. We're adding this. We're adding this.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, don't rely on that. If you can talk to us, but know that we can try to find you if you can't talk to us.
Yep.
We also have the capability now of sending a text message to get a video link. That's been pretty beneficial.
How does that work?
The dispatch center will send a link to your phone. You click on it and it gives us the ability to use your camera. And so you point it at the incident, because what looks like a tragic accident to you may once, from someone looking at it that's not involved, not under the excitement and the adrenaline rush, they realize it's nothing. It's not saying it's nothing. Edit that.
Yeah.
But it's not as bad as it appears to someone who's not trained in the field.
Yeah, the future is now. That is really something else.
Right. It really is. That's probably the biggest advancement we've got.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to kind of close out by talking about another big picture topic. I understand you have these statistics for 2023.
I do.
I'd like to know, how do those numbers compare to 2022, and what do they sort of tell you about the county?
The number of times our 911 lines rang increased 10% over 2022. It kind of shocked me. I knew we're busy, but it was a 10% increase over 2022.
What do you chalk that up to?
More people aware of calling 911 and more traffic, whether it be passerbys or we had a brush fire this week and we had probably 30 calls on it. Everybody has a phone accessible, so everybody wants to call, and we appreciate the call. And some people have more information than others, so we do appreciate the calls. But.
Yeah. Well, Kristy, before we close out, do you have any final thoughts or a message you'd like to give to the public?
I don't. Other than you appreciate the opportunity to serve as your 911 director. It's been a blessing over the years, and it's look forward to continuing in 2024.
Well, thank you. I think I speak on behalf of all of us when we say thank you for the hours you and all your officers put into it. But Kristy Easterwood is Pickens County's 911 director. Thanks for coming on and talking to us this morning, Kristy.
Thank you for having me.
You know, it's an obvious thing to say, but we really have a lot to be grateful for when you consider the important work Kristy and her officers perform each day. Gratitude can go a long way, and we all have a great opportunity to show some next month. April 14th through the 20th is 911 Telecommunications Week, and Kristy has come up with a way for citizens and businesses to show their appreciation through the Adopt a Dispatcher program. Essentially, the way it works is that you choose a dispatcher and you send them a personalized gift basket. Or, if you want to contribute more generally, you could do something like buy a meal for a shift of officers. There's all kinds of possibilities, and if you would like to send a little love their way, check our description for a link to Kristy's contact information. Likewise, if you have an interest in working as a communications officer, we'll include a link to the application. Many thanks again to Kristy for her dedication and taking the time to come on the show this month. But with that, we are going to close out now with a question to the chairman, the part of the show where you, the viewer, gets to ask a question to Chairman Chairman Stancil. So let's pop over and hear what listeners wanted to know.
So, Kris, your title is Chairman of the Board of Commissioners, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, before that, I think it was Sole County Commissioner, and I've been told by old-timers before that it was called Roads Commissioner. Have you ever heard that before?
I have. Roads and Revenue was for the longest time. So it's had many titles, same function. I think the job probably grew from what it was when it was Roads originally into managing quite a bit more. So,
yeah.
But it is still a fairly significant part of the job.
Yeah, I believe it. And I think paving and roads has probably come up more than any other topic on this show.
Yeah.
And today's no different. We have a question from Kylie Davis about paving. The email we got says, "Hey, I got this email address from the podcast. Had a quick question. Is Pickens County responsible for keeping Highway 53 from 515 and heading west towards Fairmount paved? This may have come up before. I may have missed this already, but I use this highway every day. There are sections from Hill City heading east towards Jasper that are terrible. In some cases, it looks like they've been patched year after year and it makes driving almost dangerous. Is there a plan for Pickens County or the state to repave this at some point? It seems like it's outlived its usefulness. Anyway, can you give me some information on this?" And yeah, I actually grew up in that area, so I know what you're talking about. What can you tell us, Kris?
So first is to kind of explain who handles any road. So anytime you see state route or any state highway, it's actually the State Department of Transportation that's responsible for maintenance and upkeep of any state highway, as opposed to any road that's considered to be a county road is county, and then the city has their own streets as well. So they are divided out. I know that road has been one that we've received quite a bit, and I've been in contact with the DOT on a regular basis, and then also with our state representative, Rick Jaspers. I did call and verified this morning that it actually goes out to bid this month. So the paving from Hill City to 515 on Highway 53 was bid. The bidding process began this month for it to be paved this year. And a big part of that getting moved up, it was originally on the schedule for 25. Let's say that. At one point in time, it was on the schedule for 23, then it got moved to 25. And then Rick Jaspers, who's our state representative, also serves as the chairman of the Department of Transportation Board as well. He was able to get that moved to this year. So that project will be going on as we get into spring and summer, as typically when the state does their paving projects. So that should be paved within just the next few months. As I said, it was going out to bid for the bidder to pick that up. So it's in process. We're way closer now that we actually know. And when I spoke with the lead engineer out of Cartersville today, he verified that yes, it's on the list and being bid and will be done. So we're able to pass that information on.
Well, good. So you would say then with state routes, even though they run through county land, the ultimate decision is done by the state?
Yeah. It's managed by the state of Georgia. Any state route or state highway is part of their maintenance and construction. And they do. I mean, we can reach out and we can call. Our region is what's considered to be the Region 6 out of Cartersville that covers several counties, including Pickens, and so they manage the projects for that area. And in speaking with them, they were very understanding. They've been going around and trying to evaluate which roads need the most immediate attention, and similar to what we deal with on county roads, but just on a larger scale, obviously, with State Highway. Highway 53, the traffic flow, it doesn't take long to understand. There's a significant higher volume of vehicles traveling that road, and it just causes the wear and tear to occur. So fortunately, that portion's being paved this year. I think we're just a couple of years away from the section from there going into Jasper being completely reworked. That the state is working with the city of Jasper on that. So we'll have a lot of state highway activity going on over the next couple of years. So in that area especially.
Yeah,
but it's happening.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the important thing. Always good to have a good update for that.
Yeah.
So, Callie, I hope that answered your question. And remember, if you have a question for Kris, you can send it to us at questions@pickenscountyga.gov. Or if your question is concise enough and appropriate enough, we might just put it on the air. But that's going to wrap up this episode of the Around Pickens podcast. I've been your host, Graham Parker.
And I'm Chairman Stancil.
And we'll see you around.